So here I have my collection of Oxford punch needles. There are 8 of them, and they come in 5 different loop lengths in 2 widths. So if you're like, that doesn't make any sense to me, let's take a closer look and talk about exactly what I mean. So here are the needles, and there are 8 different needles total. I'm actually missing one. I'll tell you which one I'm missing in just a second. But they range from a needle that creates a 1/2 inch loop, which is the longest size that Amy Oxford offers, to a needle that creates an 1/8 inch loop, which is the shortest size that Amy Oxford offers. All of the needles, except for 2 of them, come in 2 different widths. So this is the one I'm missing, the regular, but they come in a size that accommodates thicker yarn. That's the regular size needle is what it's called, or fine yarn, which is called the fine needle. So here's an example. These are both number 8 needles. This is a number 8 regular. This is number 8 fine. So they create the same length of loop, but they accommodate completely different yarns based on the width of the needle. Now, needles are measured from longest or shortest to longest with a number. On Amy Oxford needles, the number, is right here. You might not be able to see it in the video, but it's burned onto the wood right there. This is a number 8, and this is what was super confusing to me when I started, was because I had no idea what any of those numbers meant. It's a little bit backwards from what you would think. You'd probably think that a number 14 would be longer than a number 8, but it's actually the reverse. So a number 8 needle is the longest length that you can make, a 1/2 inch. The number 14 is the shortest loop that you can make, which is an 1/8 inch. So it goes 8, and then we have 9s, and then we have the number 10, which I'm missing my regular number 10, and then a 13 and a 14, which do not come in regular size because the loop would be so small with thick yarn you couldn't catch it. These only accommodate fine yarn. So if you've ever wondered, what do those numbers mean? It has nothing to do with the yarn that you can use. It has everything to do with the length of loop that's being created. In my years of punching, I have found that I have preferences now for what needles I like to use, and my favorite needle to use is the Oxford number 8. It makes the longest length loop, but I really like that because it gives you a little bit of, let's say, an insurance policy in case you don't punch exactly correctly. It will make a longer loop and kind of fan out to hide any mistakes. If I'm using a fine needle, I really like the number 10 or the number 13. So the number 10 is making a 1/4 inch loop, and that's great for me. I love that. I used to really love the number 14, that 1/8 inch loop, but I have found I just like the loops to be a little plushier. Now, if you have no intent to display the loopy side of your work, then you need not go for a long needle because you're just going to be wasting yarn. So whatever project you're working on, it's important to think about which side am I displaying and what do I want it to look like? Am I wanting it to be big and fluffy? Do I want it to be kind of a small compact pile? All of that goes into deciding which needle you should use. And one of my favorite things to do is actually use multiple needles in one project so that I can get a tiered look or a really textured look. So there are lots of different options. My suggestion to you is try a whole bunch of things and see what you like, and eventually you probably will land on preferring 1 or 2 needles over the rest. Now that we've covered needles, let's go on to what goes with them and talk about yarn. What yarn can you use with your needle?